This was 5 years ago? Good gravy, I'm old.
On this day, 5 years ago, it's March 29th, 2015. The setting is Santa Clara, California, in Levi Stadium, home of your very own San Francisco 49ers. What took place was the greatest WrestleMania of all time. Okay, it wasn't the greatest WrestleMania by no means, but it was one of the best WrestleManias to ever happen. And lo and behold, your boy had the honor to be there. I want to briefly touch on 2015 because I think it was an interesting year. I was a senior in high school. I officially transitioned from a teen to an adult, which sucks. I graduated from high school. I began college after that. A few movies that I liked came out. Avengers Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, that one comedy movie with Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell called Get Hard. The Sea Chickens lost to the Super Bowl to the Patriots in the worst way imaginable. And 2015 was also the year where I revitalized this channel. In regards to WWE, they had a really good 2015. 2015 was a really good year for them. Not their best year by any stretch of the imagination, because that's way past them. Their best years are way past them. But 2015 was a really well-balanced year. Obviously, WrestleMania was a good one. The Royal Rumble sucked, but Extreme Rules was decent. Money in the Bank was good. Battleground was also decent enough. SummerSlam was also good, but then you also had a mix of good and bad pay-per-views. Then you also had the rise continually of NXT and their takeover events that were highlighted by the feud between Sasha Banks and Bayley. And on the main roster side of things, you had, it was the year of Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, and many other younger stars that were trying to make a name for themselves. And then on the veteran side of things, you had John Cena, Randy Orton, Triple H, and the rest of the Authority, and Brock Lesnar, trying to help out the younger stars, put over the younger stars however they can. Obviously, the Authority were still running roughshod at this time, but it was like their last full year together before they crumbled in 2016. But overall, 2015 for WWE was a very balanced year, and I thought it was a successful year for them because the following years was not so good for them. And look where we are today with WWE. Yeah, 2015 was, I think, their last good year. But in this video, we're not going to talk about the years that followed 2015. We're going to talk about this one particular event. We're going to take a walk. We're going to take a walk down memory lane, reflect back on what was one of my all-time favorite wrestling events and my all-time favorite day to be a wrestling fan. And that is WrestleMania 31. Now, I remember, when I was going into this WrestleMania, I was pretty nervous. I was pretty nervous going to this WrestleMania live. Particularly because of the build towards it. A lot of the matches outside of Triple H versus Sting, Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton, and John Cena versus Rusev, the builds were subpar. They were subpar at best. But we're going to get into the matches itself later. There were a couple things going in as a fan, preparing myself what to expect into a WrestleMania that helped me learn a little bit if I were to ever go to a WrestleMania again in the future. My one biggest regret that I really wish I did going into WrestleMania 31, and it was so close nearby since I live here in the Bay Area, was not going to Access or the Hall of Fame. But given that I was still in high school at the time, I didn't have the ducats. I didn't have the dough to go to all the events, especially the Hall of Fame. But I guess it was because not only did I have the ducats, I also couldn't find like good enough like the time and the dates, because in high school obviously it's like a work schedule. It's like 9 to 3. But Access was just one of those events I really wanted to go to, not only because of the attractions like the Elimination Chamber or seeing NXT matches, but to meet WWE wrestlers. There were a lot of good wrestlers to meet at WrestleMania Access. There's also the WrestleMania Superstore there, and it was at the San Jose Convention Center, so it was nearby me. So that was my one big missed opportunity for that WrestleMania weekend. And then there's also a NXT live event in San Jose that weekend as well. This was before they started doing NXT takeovers that WrestleMania weekend. So that was my really big regret that WrestleMania weekend. But given the circumstances that I was in high school, there wasn't like a lot of dates that I can, or a lot of like free time that I had, and then I didn't have a lot of money. I guess I can forgive myself for that. But going into the day of WrestleMania itself, again, I was pretty nervous. I was really nervous the whole day. It's like I had these fan signs ready. It was like beforehand I spent like a good week preparing it and like thinking what signs I should make for WrestleMania. And then the whole day my nervousness just peaked. I remember I kind of remember my whole day as I was going through it. Me and my family went to Denny's beforehand. It was gonna be me and my bro, but we were gonna be dropped off to like go to ride a train to WrestleMania. And then I already noticed there's gonna be fans that were at Denny's as well that were gonna go to Mania, just like me and my bro. But since I was so excited for the event, it's like, and I just had to keep telling myself, like, as more time passed, because I kept thinking to myself, I was going to be late. I was going to be late to WrestleMania because I had no idea what was going to happen. The longer the food took to get to the table, I was just thinking to myself, can the waiter just hurry up and get the damn food? That's how nervous I was for this WrestleMania. I was just too excited. I was too nervous. I guess it was because like there's also some pre-show stuff that I wanted to see as well as get some merch because I didn't get a chance to at Access because I never went to it. But yeah, that was my morning for WrestleMania 31 weekend, Sunday. Then we get to the train. We ride the train to Levi Stadium. Entering it was a little nerve-wracking as well. Not as much as like going through that little breakfast detour, but still nerve-wracking because throughout my whole life, I never been through such a large crowd like WrestleMania. It's like, I think the crowd was like 76,000 people, and I've never in my whole life been to an event like that. The biggest I've ever been was like a one WWE live event, but that was only like a few thousand people. But this was like 76,000 people from around the world, not just the Bay Area, but from around the world. It was insane. I remember walking through a bunch of security checks, and then I passed by like the merch trucks. I saw one of my friends there that was volunteering there. It was fun to see a few friends at this WrestleMania. It was also fun and nerve-wracking to see them. And then, fun fact, this was also the first season for the 49ers at this stadium. From what I recall, after 5 years, me and my bro showed up a good 2 or 3 hours before the pre-show to get an idea of what our seats look like. It was pretty good seats, like for the price. We got like good lower bowl seats from like the field. And we got a good view of the stage. Obviously, those little structure things kind of block it, but it is what it is. I thought at the time they could have been a little more creative with the stage, like, you know, make make it like WrestleMania 29 with you know, the Brooklyn Bridge. Make it like, instead of the Brooklyn Bridge, make it like the San Francisco Bay Area Bridge. But I guess it was the dimensions of the 49ers stadium too, you know. But maybe have it on the top of the tarp thing, you know. But anyway, the stage was kind of a minor thing. I did like the YouTube play button in the middle of the stage though. We took some pictures. We saw what our seating view would look like. I snuck off a bit to where the 49ers team store would be, because they would have some merchandise. Got some merch. One other regret was not getting those WrestleMania jerseys that they had, because they looked cool. But once the show began, I was locked in for a good 4 to 6 hours. And let's get right into that, because this was a very good show. So first of all, I want to first say, it was hot. It was very, very hot at this WrestleMania, and I want to give like major props to all the people. Like, it's 5 years. It was 5 years ago, but major props to everyone that worked that WrestleMania in that heat. I know it's like Northern California weather, but it was still hot that day. It was really hot. The wrestlers had to work in the sun. The tarp thing is covering them, but like the sun was still coming towards them. And Levi Stadium is known for like not having like protection from the heat. But anyway, all those things aside, we had the pre-show. Obviously things felt different because you didn't have the commentary team. Like, people in the stadium couldn't hear the commentary team, what was going on. So like everyone else, it felt completely different for me not to have a commentary team, like feeding things to you, or like relaying what's going on in the match. So you have to have it. Like, for me, it was like, I had to know what was going on. Like I just didn't. It was really hard for me to follow what was going on in these matches because there's no commentary. We started things off with a fatal 4-way tag team match in the pre-show. At the time, the champions were Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. The New Day, the Usos, and Los Matadores. Yeah, you all remember these teams? You all remember Los Matadores, especially? This is a match I personally don't remember, like, still don't seem to remember, and personally don't seem to, like, go run back and watch, especially because it was a spot fest, which I'm still not a fan of these days, especially in AEW. But it was a good way, I'll admit, to get fans excited for the show as they were still piling in. And it's like, oh, did you miss the pre-show? Oh, here's a match that to get you all excited for, especially for the casual viewers. But I will say though, this match did a lot for the New Day. Even though they lost, this helped jumpstart their breakout year because fans were chanting "New Day sucks, New Day sucks." They weren't buying into their whole positivity gimmick, their whole shtick. And then over the next couple of weeks following WrestleMania, they turned heel. They changed it up, and that's when over time people started buying into the New Day. So, if anything, the match itself wasn't very memorable, but it did a lot for Big E, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods, and they went on to be multi-time tag team champions. It wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad. But then we got to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the second edition of it. I didn't find anything too particularly interesting. The previous year's edition from WrestleMania 30 at the time was miles better, especially with Cesaro winning it. Here, the only interesting thing from this one was The Miz and Damien Sandow. Sandow was pretty much having this gimmick of The Miz's stunt double. Sandow, he started to copy literally every single thing The Miz did, and it had me sold. It had me sold. It had everyone sold, and people were rooting for him because of Sandow's charisma with the gimmick and in general. Over the course of the next couple of weeks leading up to Mania, there was like dissension between the two, and it climaxed at Mania when it was down to Big Show, Damien Sandow, and The Miz, and The Miz wanted to work together with Sandow to eliminate the Big Show, but for some odd reason, the Sandow didn't want to work with them, and he eliminated The Miz. And Miz was pissed. Everyone was cheering. I was cheering too that Sandow eliminated The Miz. My brother was hella confused why I was cheering for Sandow at the time because, like, obviously I follow WWE more than he does, but that was all ruined because the Big Show went on to win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and I was like, WWE only went halfway. They only went halfway because Mizdow was eliminated by the Big Show. It would have been a huge WrestleMania moment for Sandow, I'm sorry, if he had won this Battle Royal. But obviously that would have to been like built up from the follow-up, obviously. Even then, it's like the Big Show would ruin like a good majority of that Battle Royal by eliminating a good chunk of the field. This is not a knock on the Big Show, but Sandow was one of the hottest acts going into WrestleMania, and his career in WWE could have been advanced, but again, this Battle Royal was given to Big Show just so he can redeem himself from the previous year's WrestleMania. I keep saying last year, but the previous year's WrestleMania, where he lost to Cesaro, and then he just didn't do anything. He didn't do anything with it afterwards. He just feuded with Roman Reigns, and that's it. And then Sandow even lost all steam afterwards. He lost the Mizdow name to the Miz. He teamed up with Curtis Axel to form a Mega Powers ripoff before that was completely scrapped because of the whole Hulk Hogan 2015 scandal. And then Sandow was released like not too long after, so kind of a lost opportunity on WWE there. So in the end, this Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal didn't do anything for anybody, and it still doesn't do anything for anybody. The main show begins with Lillian Garcia singing the national anthem, and then you have Aloe Black performing America the Beautiful, which both were really great performances. You even had fighter jets flying over Levi Stadium as per tradition. That was pretty dope. And then you kick things off with a ladder match for the Intercontinental title. These multi-man ladder matches would become a tradition for a couple of years, except for WrestleMania 34 and 35. They're coming back for WrestleMania 20 or 36. But this WrestleMania 31 ladder match to kick off the show was a banger. This was great. You had the champion Wade Barrett. Yeah, you remember Wade Barrett, Bad News Barrett. Then you had Daniel Bryan, R-Truth, Dolph Ziggler, Jon Moxley. Oh wait, sorry. Dean Ambrose, Brody Lee. Oh, sorry. Luke Harper and Cody Rhodes. Sorry. Stardust. Half of the field is like AEW people now. Pretty much all the competitors prior to this match were stealing Wade Barrett's Intercontinental title, claiming that they were the Intercontinental Champion. So, which leads us to this ladder match taking place. And man, this was a good opener. This was a way to get people fired up if they're not already. A lot of good spots, a lot of really good spots, and great chemistry from everyone involved, trying to get the title with the ladder. And some notable spots that I found were Wade Barrett giving Cody a superplex, Ambrose, aka Moxley, getting sent through the ladder. That was like you know, it was like connected via the barricade and the ring apron. He was broken in half through the ladder by Brody Lee. Luke Harper. Then you had Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler being the final two men in the ring on the ladder, headbutting each other, but Daniel Bryan prevailed and won the IC title to a sea of yes chants. And my God, it was fun doing those yes chants in the sun. It was a very energetic match, and it was very fast. Like it was a long match, but it was very fast paced considering all the spots we got in that match. It just sucks that Daniel Bryan got hurt afterwards and he had to retire for a couple of years, but the right man won that title that day, and it was a really good match. I'll give them that. Then we had Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton in a blow-off to their 4-month-long feud. This was a prelude of what was to happen later in the night. So they settled their 4-month-long story, and this was great. So leading up to this, Randy Orton was obviously the first one to join the Authority, but then Seth Rollins turns on the Shield back in June 2014. He builds his way up. When he still has Money in the Bank by WrestleMania 31, but Randy Orton, several months beforehand, he's getting jealous of Seth Rollins getting babied by the Authority. The Authority kicks him out. Seth Rollins puts him out of commission. Randy Orton, several months later, he's out for revenge, out for Seth Rollins' blood. This is where we are at with WrestleMania 31. And Seth Rollins got new attire finally. He's out with J&J and security as usual. Randy Orton's there as usual, ready to RKO someone's ass. This was a good match. This was a good match. J&J security got involved as usual. Got their ass handed by Orton. The best moment of this match, hands down, and perhaps even a dark horse for one of the best WrestleMania moments, was Seth Rollins, like after Randy Orton kicked out of a curb stomp, he tried to go for another curb stomp, only to be sent up into the air for an RKO by Randy Orton, and Randy Orton won the match, and perhaps one of the best RKO spots to witness ever and witness live. It honestly kind of sucked that Randy Orton won the match and Seth Rollins was not put over. Seth Rollins didn't win it to increase his legitimacy as a top heel, but with the match being placed so early, it gave Seth Rollins ample amount of time to recover for something much bigger that would happen later in the night. The Authority was a thorn in both the roster and the fans for all throughout 2013 and 2014 and going into 2015. And fans were absolutely tired of them taking over WWE programming, including myself. From Daniel Bryan to The Big Show to Dolph Ziggler to even The Shield, Seth Rollins being convinced to turn on Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley and Roman Reigns. To even their first recruit, Randy Orton. They were using their authority to get what they wanted, to get their vision of WWE. That was until their biggest threat made his debut at Survivor Series 2014 in one of the best debuts that I've seen as a wrestling fan. Sting, the icon, the franchise of WCW, made his debut at Survivor Series 2014 during the Team Authority versus Team Cena match. The entire wrestling world changed because Sting made his debut for WWE, and I was excited. It was a completely shell-shocking move around the wrestling world at this time. So, over the course of those months prior to WrestleMania, every time Sting showed up, he was always outsmarting the Authority, always getting the upper hand, always stopping the Authority from causing more harm. And then when it was announced that Sting would make his debut at WrestleMania 31, my excitement for attending WrestleMania tripled. We knew The Undertaker was going to be there. We knew John Cena was going to be there. We knew all these wrestlers were going to be there. But Sting? Oh my God. I am sold. I am sold, man. And here we are. WrestleMania 31. Sting versus Triple H in a no disqualification match. And I honestly loved the entrances for both of them. Sting came out with Japanese drummers, while Triple H, hands down, had one of the best entrances of the night. He came out with a bunch of Terminator like robots, and then he even had like Terminator heads, like he was holding Terminator heads on his hands, and he was wearing a Terminator skull mask. It was super cool. It was super cool. Sooner or later, it transitioned from Sting versus the Authority to WWE versus WCW. Those were the things that I remembered most about this match. Because going into it, Sting even mentioned in a promo that it was purely him versus the Authority and not WWE versus WCW. Yet, we got that in this match, which kind of disappointed me. But we still got appearances by D-Generation X and the NWO. So I was stunned. I was stunned when DX's music came out. I was a big DX fan in 2006. They were actually one of my first tag teams that I really enjoyed, with Triple H and Shawn Michaels pranking the hell out of Vince McMahon. And the OG DX members came out, the New Age Outlaws, X-Pac. They came to assist Triple H, but they were ass-handed by Sting, and Sting launched himself onto DX and Triple H. And then things really got odd when the NWO's music came on, blaring through Levi Stadium. And then they were clearly there to help Sting when Sting was their rivals back in WCW. But I don't know, it's weird logic. So you have Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall marching down the ring. Everyone is popping loud. I was honestly marking out despite the lack in logic, but it's freaking Hulk Hogan and the NWO. It's like, I'm seeing this live, so I'm not mad. I'm not mad at it, but it's just like the logic all over the place is weird. So the NWO and DX are brawling. They're attacking Triple H as well, but while they're fighting, Shawn Michaels comes out of the crowd out of nowhere, hits Sweet Chin music on Sting, but Triple H kicks out. And then later, it's a standoff between Triple H and Sting with their signature weapons. This was a pretty cool moment too. The Game with the sledgehammer, the Icon with his baseball bat, and then this is where things get a little questionable here. Actually, very questionable. Triple H wins. Triple H wins with a sledgehammer shot. I really liked the NWO and DX surprises that night, but it just didn't fit the narrative. I really didn't like the WWE versus WCW narrative that they had to bring up again. It's like, the whole WCW thing was done in 2001. It's like, why bring it back into Sting's first ever match in WWE? It's like, this was Sting versus the Authority. It was even mentioned, yet Vince let Triple H win again. I don't know. I guess it's just like Vince finally putting the nail, like finally claiming superiority over what was already a dead company in WCW. But I don't know. It is what it is now, but it's still baffling to look upon every time I reflect on it and even watch it. But it's just unfortunate. Sting would never win another match in WWE. He obviously had that career-ending injury at Night of Champions, and that was that. Man, it was. I just really wish Sting would have won, and we didn't like. I'm glad we got those surprises, but I just really wish Sting won in the end. Next up, you had the WrestleMania theme song artist Skylar Grey, Travis Barker, and Kid Ink perform the WrestleMania theme songs. I wanted to take a bathroom break, but honestly, I don't know. I was just too glued into WrestleMania at this point. I was just like, yeah, I was just sitting there not giving two shits in the world about this music performance. It was pretty much just a bathroom break. So at least they gave us a bathroom break before the next match, which was the Bella Twins, Brie and Nikki Bella, going up against AJ Lee and Paige, which turned out to be one of AJ Lee's last matches in WWE and in all of pro wrestling. So going into this, prior to this, she lost the Divas. AJ Lee lost the Divas title to Nikki at the 2014 Survivor Series, and Paige was already feuding with the Bellas, but every partner she had to combat them wasn't really helping. And then you also had that whole Give Divas a Chance movement on the rise on social media. AJ Lee was very critical of the state of the women's division too at this time, and then that's where things were in 2015. If you thought the women's division was bad now, well, it was very bad then. Weeks before Mania, AJ Lee returned from injury. This was a week after the whole Give Divas a Chance movement started. She returned from injury to save Paige from a post-match attack from the Bellas, and this is where we are with this match at WrestleMania 31. The match was pretty decent. Although a large majority of it was Paige getting her ass handed by the Bellas. And once AJ got in, I was popping. I was already popping for Paige because I really liked Paige at this time. I liked AJ too. So once they came out, I was screaming with the lights out for Paige. I think I even made a sign for Paige too. So AJ got in. She tried to apply for the Black Widow submission on Nikki. Brie got involved, and then Paige stepped in to take Brie out of the match, and then AJ got the submission win on Nikki made her tap out to the Black Widow. So this was a good match. Like, I'm glad AJ got a WrestleMania win with Paige in one of the last matches, because that same week, after she competed on Raw with Paige and I think Bayley, she retired from pro wrestling because of the whole thing with CM Punk, and then she was already having neck issues or spinal issues that forced her to retire as well. It was an interesting time for AJ. I think giving her a win at WrestleMania was like that last defining moment for her. Obviously, she's a successful author now. She's doing a lot to keep herself steady. As for the match itself, I didn't like how short it was at this stage of the game, like in 2015, because they were in a movement. Like, they were in this whole Give Divas a Chance movement that only started a couple weeks ago, a couple weeks prior. It was going all over social media. It was trending on Twitter, and it was going all over the place. And all these women involved in this match, they were very vocal in how the state of the women's division currently was at this time. Very short matches, no character development, lack of screen time, the very little screen time they were getting outside of very select women. Well, I mean, it is kind of like where we are with the current division, but only slightly better. But the women's division in 2015 and prior to that was much worse. It was much worse. And this match, While I did enjoy AJ Lee and Paige live, it didn't do much to improve people's thought on the whole women's division and this whole give divas a chance movement. But it set the stage for the whole four horsewomen eventually making their way to the main roster. Rusev. 2015 was his year. He went on a tear in 2014. Once he made his main roster debut, he implemented this Hero of Russia gimmick. It was the Hero of the Russian Federation. He went on to win the U.S. title from Sheamus at the end of 2014. Rusev, he was unstoppable, man, until he ran into his biggest competitor, his biggest threat, in John Cena after the 2015 Royal Rumble. They had a match at Fastlane, but Rusev upset John Cena. He made him pass out to the Accolade. And then this led to Cena asking for a rematch, but he didn't get one until he was able to convince Lana to give him one because Cena locked Rusev into the STFU a few weeks before Mania 31, which finally convinced Lana to give him a rematch. And I will say, Rusev had one of the best WrestleMania entrances that night because the dude came out on a tank. The dude came out on a freaking tank. How impressive is that? A mother-loving tank. You want to impose your will on John Cena and perhaps the entire WWE roster? You come out on a mother freaking tank. That's what I call dominant right there. And then John Cena had his usual salute to the C Nation, rally towel entrance. So nothing special from Cena that year. But he ran into the same problems that he had at Fastlane. He couldn't overcome Rusev at the beginning. John Cena had his comeback, and as usual, fans didn't like it. They didn't want to see the Super Cena 5 moves of doom. The "you can't see me," the 5-knuckle shuffle. Lana tried to get involved, but Rusev accidentally knocked her off the apron, which allowed John Cena to hit the the AA to win the United States Championship, and John Cena wins at WrestleMania. It was a good match. I really liked that match. It didn't hurt Rusev at the time, but eventually it did because Rusev slowly and surely began to falter in WWE after losing his rematch with Cena at Extreme Rules, because eventually he would split himself from Lana. Then they had that terrible feud when he began associating himself with Summer Rae, and then Lana with Dolph Ziggler. But then it became clear that Rusev and Lana they're engaged in real life, and then they had to call the whole feud off because of that. And it's like, yeah, you're not doing that. So Rusev hasn't had much success in WWE since losing to John Cena, other than the brief Rusev Day thing, but it's not really much success there. Not really much success. So good match. Loved the entrance by Rusev, but it just hurt him in the end, It really hurt him eventually. So after we had the United States Championship match, we get a surprise segment of sorts. I wasn't expecting this segment at all. So the Authority comes out, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, fresh off Triple H's match with Sting. They come out and announce the WrestleMania attendance for the night, and it broke a Levi Stadium attendance record, which still hasn't been broken as of this day. Thank God. That BTS, whatever it is, concert better not break that shit. Of 76,976. So I'm glad as hell to be a part of that 76,000 people. So they continue to gloat about Triple H's victory, but then all of a sudden, The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, a Bay Area native, comes out, and I am surprised as all hell. I got out of my seat because The Rock was there. And then he insults Triple H, but then he gets slapped by Stephanie McMahon, and obviously The Rock can't hit Stephanie. So you know what he does next? he brings out Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey sitting there at ringside with her friends from the UFC. Rousey, again, she was the UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion at the time. And then Rousey gets in the ring, tells her that she owns Stephanie, and then the four brawl in the ring. Rousey actually hip tosses Triple H out of the ring and then teases Lockie and Stephanie in an arm bar. That was a pretty cool segment and actually is a tease of what was to come 2.5 years later with Ronda Rousey signing with the WWE and wrestling for WWE for a year and becoming the Raw Women's Champion. So I guess WrestleMania 31 was a prelude to Rousey's brief WWE career. If she, I can't say brief because we don't know if she wants to continue it, but WrestleMania 31 was a prelude for Ronda Rousey in WWE, and this was a really nice segment. The Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. This was a fun match too, and I didn't know how it was gonna turn out because last time I saw The Undertaker, saw The Undertaker, the streak was broken by Brock Lesnar. WrestleMania 30 saw the end of the streak in like shocking fashion at the time. WrestleMania 31, I had the honor of seeing The Undertaker's first match since the streak broke. But it was kind of weird, you know. It was kind of weird to see them walk to the ring because both Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker, like their entrances are very like dark and gloomy. Yet they didn't have the advantage of that because when it was, I think it was 6 or 7 o'clock here in California, it was still daylight. It was still daylight here in California, here in Santa Clara. Their entrances looked very weird with the sun still out. Bray Wyatt tried to have those flashlight, those cell phone lights in the crowd. Yeah, that wasn't going to work with Bray Wyatt. And then you had The Undertaker come out. They tried to have the dark lighting, but the sunlight obviously prevented that from making it like an Undertaker entrance. So it was a very weird entrance for both of them. But then again, The Undertaker back at WrestleMania 9 also had a daylight entrance. But it was just weird seeing an Undertaker entrance in pure daylight. The match itself, I liked. Undertaker looked a lot better at this time from the previous year's streak-ending match against Brock Lesnar because I guess a lot of that had to do with The Undertaker suffering a concussion during that match. Both men hit their signature moves. Undertaker kicked out of 2 Sister Abigails, man. He obviously hit all the other signature moves like Old School, the Snake Eyes, the leg drop on the apron. Wyatt kicked out of Sister Abigail. He put up a fight in this match too. He didn't let up on The Undertaker. But then, after the second Sister Abigail, Wyatt kicked out of the Tombstone Piledriver, sorry. And then, after the second Sister Abigail, Wyatt did his then signature spider walk to The Undertaker, and then once he got closer, The Undertaker sat up. He sat up as Wyatt got closer to The Undertaker. That visual is still awesome to see. So Undertaker finishes off Wyatt with the tombstone, and Undertaker looked good. He looked a lot better. He must have trained really hard to bounce back and have a better match with Bray Wyatt than he did with Brock Lesnar. Apparently Wyatt injured his ankle prior to the match, so I guess that explains the slow pace they had. But and again, the entire show was a good balance already between fast and slow. So I'll let it slide. Undertaker's age never showed here like it did at Mania 30 or in what we're seeing in current years. So really good performance. I really loved this performance by Taker. Really cool to see it live when he did the signature pose and the fireworks went off. Just weird to see the purple lighting in daylight though. And then Wyatt didn't lose too much, but he didn't have his best years following WrestleMania 31. But he's in a much better position now as The Fiend. So really good match, and at least Wyatt's in a much better place now as The Fiend. Oh, the main event. The main event. The WWE Champion, Brock Lesnar, versus Roman Reigns. In all honesty, I thought this WWE title match was going to be one of the worst ones I have ever seen as a wrestling fan. The build was not good. It was really bad. Given Brock Lesnar was not there for a good chunk of it. This was when Brock Lesnar was like, yeah, I'm going to be WWE champion, but not show up like a good portion of the time during my reign. That was when like Vince really stuck it to fans when it comes to part-time WWE champions, and he still does it today. During the time that Lesnar wasn't there, Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman had to carry the feud. It's like Roman Reigns had to cut these one-liner promos that I will, believe that. Pretty much using the same mantras that he used from the Shield. It's like nothing changed with Roman. So, in an effort to like make Roman look tough against Lesnar, they made him battle the Authority, Mark Henry, and they had that match with Daniel Bryan at Fastlane for Roman's spot against Lesnar at WrestleMania. But I don't know, fans really did not want Roman because it's like it was too soon for him. He wasn't ready. I thought he wasn't ready either because although I would like Roman as champion to get the belt off of Lesnar, I just didn't see him ready as a champion yet. It was like he was coming off injury once he got back at TLC 2014, and then he suddenly won the Royal Rumble in 2015, which I was kind of proud of, but at the same time, it's like, had he not gotten injured, this wouldn't have felt like a too soon situation, you know? So, that's where we're at. And then, there's also the uncertainty of Brock Lesnar contract expiring with the WWE. There were reports going on about that. But then it was announced on the Sports Center, ESPN Sports Center, prior to WrestleMania 31. I think it was like a couple days before that Lesnar re-signed. He signed a new contract with WWE. So that even muddied the waters further on whether or not Reigns was going to win or Lesnar was going to retain. I think the feud had its worst moment and pretty much like made fans even more disappointed because of the fact of this image right here. But hey, at least it's good meme material, right? The build completely sucked ass, but I will admit, the match itself, it was pretty damn good. The atmosphere for a main event was like no other. Roman Reigns was the babyface in this match, but as I said before, fans really hated him. It's funny because a year ago, fans loved Roman Reigns, even though he was in the Shield. They wanted him to win the 2014 Royal Rumble against Batista, but how the roles have reversed. 2015, fans didn't want Roman to win. They wanted Daniel Bryan to win. But Roman wins the Rumble. Now he's getting this huge fan backlash that is so hostile in the house of the 49ers that he needs to be escorted by security. Like in that large sea of fans that even freaking Jimmy G doesn't need. It's freaking insane. I guess that's why he doesn't do those like entrances through the crowd anymore. So, on the other hand, Lesnar comes out to a very loud pop. Fans are cheering for Lesnar. The fireworks go off around Levi Stadium. Now the sunset starts to befell. Yeah, like 30 minutes so late. Thanks for the Undertaker. Paul Heyman does his introduction for Brock Lesnar, takes the microphone from Lillian Garcia, and then everyone is singing and chanting along with this introduction. I was doing it too. It was so fun to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman, and tonight I introduce to you the Beast, the Conqueror,
match begins. Roman, nervous as hell, pulls a Kofi Kingston, pulls a John Cena like at SummerSlam 7 months before, but he runs into an F5. Roman kicks out of the F5, and then he takes a trip to where the term was born. Yeah, Suplex City was born at WrestleMania 31. Like, obviously no one knew it yet. I mean, people watching at home knew Brock Lesnar said Suplex City, but I didn't know Suplex City was such a popular term, because you can't hear anything when you're watching this live, especially when you're like so far away from the ring. So obviously Suplex City was born when WWE caught Lesnar mouthing it up close. So Roman's laughing, and he keeps egging Lesnar to like continue beating him up. It's like Roman has a little bit of offense there, but Lesnar keeps countering it. Lesnar continues to take him to Suplex City, bitch, and another F5, and Roman kicks out. So at this point, Lesnar's pissed, so he decides to take off the gloves. He decides it's time to take off the gloves, bitch, and he bitch slaps Roman Reigns with his gloves off. I thought he was gonna make him bleed, but it's Lesnar that bleeds. As the fight goes outside, Roman pushes Lesnar into the ring post, busts him open hard. Lesnar starts bleeding profusely, and then the rally begins. And then this is where fans started to get nervous, and they started to boo. They were getting really worried that their reality was going to start to kick in, that Roman Reigns was going to walk out the WWE champion that night. Roman Reigns hits Superman punch, Superman punch, Superman punch until he's able to hit a spear on Brock Lesnar. He hits another spear onto Brock Lesnar for just a 2 count. Roman's wondering, what the heck do I have to do to get Brock Lesnar to win the WWE title? Roman tries for another spear, but Lesnar hits the F5. Although, since he bled so much, he's too exhausted to go for the pin. So at this point, both men are down, and I'm sitting in the crowd, like, nervous as hell as well, and my brother is like tapping on my shoulder, and we start talking about what's gonna happen next. He asked me what's gonna happen next. I think a couple minutes later, Roman is gonna hit a spear and win the title, and then my brother predicts that Seth Rollins is gonna come out and cash in Money in the Bank. He doesn't say right now or afterwards, but I think he said right now. And surely enough, my brother's prediction came true. Seth Rollins' music hits. Seth Rollins comes down down the ramp with the Money in the Bank briefcase, clearly recovered enough from his RKO that he took from Randy Orton. The crowd is freaking going nuts. I'm going nuts. My brother is going nuts. We're all going nuts in the crowd. Seth Rollins hands the briefcase to the referee. Lillian Garcia announces that it's going to be a triple threat midway through this brawl of a match. So Seth Rollins kicks out Roman Reigns. He hits a curb stomp onto Brock Lesnar, and he wants to hit another one for good measure, but Lesnar catches him, tries to go for an F5, but Roman Reigns hits a spear. And then once Rollins sees that Roman can't get up and fast enough, boom, curb stomp, and lo and behold, a WrestleMania moment was again born. Seth Rollins completes the heist of the century. I think I made a sign too that Seth Rollins was going to cash in, but I thought it was going to be afterwards. My brother made a very bold prediction that came true that night, and Seth Rollins stole the WWE Championship midway through the match in one of the greatest WrestleMania moments that I've ever seen and to have witnessed live in person. Seth Rollins ends the night with the WWE title, Fireworks go off. Everyone's celebrating. Everyone's happy. The build sucked ass. This main event was hard hitting. It was a brawl, and I loved it. Every second of it. Suplex City was born. Roman Reigns looked really strong. He got to hit all the moves that he wanted to hit. Brock Lesnar obviously looked like his dominant self, and then he showed signs of weaknesses, and then again Roman Reigns got the rally, and then when we got the swerve ending with Seth Rollins cashing in, and we got that big WrestleMania moment, like with the previous year WrestleMania with Daniel Bryan winning the WWE title, in a culmination of that several month long yes movement with the against the Authority. We get this WrestleMania moment with Seth Rollins with the Money in the Bank briefcase swooping in as the ultimate opportunist, pulling up a even better Edge impression and stealing the WWE title away from both Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, capping off one of the best WrestleMania main events, and perhaps one of the best and really well balanced WrestleManias of all time. So, all in all, I really enjoyed this WrestleMania. It was a really fun experience for a first WrestleMania to be at. This is honestly my first televised WWE events to be at. Beforehand, I only went to a WWE live event, and being at WrestleMania as part of several other thousand people, nervous as hell. But as the show went on, it was so exciting. It was obviously hard to know what's going on because there's no commentary going on. It's you don't know when it's gonna end. So it made for a good WrestleMania for me. It really made for a great WrestleMania, and one of my favorite WrestleManias. WrestleMania 22 just beats it to the punch just a little bit in regards to my favorite WrestleMania. But as a fan, this is my all-time favorite event to go to ever in the history of being a wrestling fan, and that was WrestleMania 31 5 years later. So what do you guys think about this video? What do you guys think about taking a walk down memory lane again with WrestleMania 31 5 years later? Let me know in the comments below. What 5 years later, what's still your favorite WrestleMania 31 match? Your favorite WrestleMania 31 moment? What do you think about Seth Rollins cashing in Money in the Bank 5 years, as of 5 years now? Let me know about all this in the comments below. Anyway, everyone, I'm gonna get out of here. This WrestleMania still holds a very special place in my heart. Not just for being there, but for being part of one of the best WrestleManias of all time. So thank you all for joining me for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, you know what to do. Hit the like. If you didn't, you know what to do. And leave me your thoughts on this reflection, on just looking back at this WrestleMania. And always be delicious. And I will see you all next time. Take care, everyone.